It's a really weird phase, but we've documented now 24 bucks total in the last 3 years on 6 different pieces of property that have what we call field trips the last week of July, first week of August, onto the property. They show up for a day, maybe 2, and then they're gone again, and we don't pick them back up until the rut. And the bucks that we've had on those properties that we follow all summer, and they leave that week, those bucks leave that farm as soon as they go harvesting. So I never get another picture of them until late season when they've either shed or about to shed. So we kind of picked that up. So I always tell guys, like, biggest thing for the most important week to have your trail cameras out is always the last week of July, because you're going to pick up some new deer that you're never going to see, but you're going to pick up the deer you're going to hunt during the rut.
Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast, episode number 282. Blake Garrett, Big Buck Field Trips. Support for the Big Buck Registry and the Deer Hunt Podcast comes from Rackology. Everything you need in one bag. Now available at Rural King and Orslin Farm and Home storefronts, or online at www.rackology.org. Minus 33 merino wool layering system. Timeless natural insulation, keeping you warm on the coldest days while staying breathable and wicking away moisture on the wet ones without the old school itch of regular wool. Grizzly Ears, the most advanced engineered wireless earbuds for the outdoors. Covert scouting cameras, remote cameras for hunting, wildlife, and security. Quiet Cat, the all-terrain electric bicycle. Visit quietcat.com. That's QUIETKAT.com and use the discount code BIGBUCK15 to secure 15% off your next Quiet Cat purchase. And Big Buck merch. You can get cool, high-quality Big Buck t-shirts, long-sleeve t-shirts, and hoodies. And show support for this podcast by visiting www.bigbuckregistry.com/MERCH. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
This is Art Helen from Art Helen Outdoors, Dodgeville, Wisconsin. Get ready to listen to another amazing interview with Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast.
This is Cameron Coble, the average Joe blue-collar bow hunter, and you're listening to my number one favorite podcast of all time, Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hey everyone, it's Eva Shockey. You're about to listen to another great episode of Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow predators. My name is Jay, and thank you for tuning in to the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. For Dusty Phillips and Jim Keller and the entire staff here at the Big Buck Registry, welcome to this week's show. There are a couple things I'd like you to do for us if you could. If you would, please check us out on iTunes, subscribe, and leave us a review. With your help, we're going to try and push this show up the iTunes charts. I know we have a lot of listeners out there, and I need you to take some action. I need you to leave a review and subscribe to the show. If you do subscribe, that'll give you access and notification each and every week that a new show is released. You can also access this show in its entirety on YouTube, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, and as an Amazon Alexa skill. Go to Alexa and say, Alexa, enable Big Buck Registry. It's all right there for you to access on demand at your fingertips. Regarding the harness program, we have an ample supply of harnesses to give away from our volunteer donors. If you're in need of a full-body harness, please send an email to jay@bigbuckregistry.com. Blake Garrett knows a thing or two about deer hunting because he's seen a thing or two about deer behavior. Blake takes his approach to deer hunting with scientific overtones, studying big buck behavior over several years using game cameras and observation. He's noticed some interesting patterning year to year, enough to develop and scientifically test his theories. Blake is big into positive deer reinforcement when it comes to deer hunter habits and endlessly avoids negative deer encounter events. Blake discusses with us in detail his deer hunting approach, habits, and theories. We'll get to our entire interview with Blake Garrett in just one moment, but before we do, let's hear from our friends at Rackology, minus 33 merino wool products, and Jim Keller with the deer news.
Hey, it's Eric Fitzgerald here with Rackology. Wanted to visit you briefly about one of the most exciting products that we got in the market with Rackology. This is our food plot fertilizer. You can supplement your deer right through your food plot with this product. This is not your normal NPK. This has got so many goodies in this bag. Basically what it does is it makes your soil work for you so you can get by with just using fertilizer like this and not a lot of synthetics. If you want a good food plot and you want deer coming in and healthy plants, look at the food plot fertilizer through Rackology. Check us out at rackology.org. Thanks for tuning in.
Let's talk about a hunter's layering system for a sec. We need to be ready for any weather that Mother Nature throws at us. With the layering concepts that Minus 33 has created with their incredible merino wool products, they've got you covered. The Minus 33's merino wool expedition weight garments will keep you warm on the coldest late season days while regulating and wicking away moisture in a way that only merino wool can do. You see, wool will absorb up to 30% of its weight in moisture without leaving you feeling wet or clammy, and wool insulates better than cotton or polyester and protects against hypothermia on those late season hunts. And here's another interesting point. You might not think of wool for early season, but with the Minus 33 wicking technology, I'll take a lightweight Minus 33 base layer any day in warm weather. Merino wool fibers naturally reject any bacteria found in moisture or sweat and gives you double protection against odor as your target buck approaches. Visit www.minus33.com to learn more about Minus 33's layering technology. Use the code BIGBUCK33 to get 10% off your next order.
Now here's Jim Keller with the Deer News.
Our first story this week. No deer season in part of Mississippi? It's possible. This story is from the Clarion Ledger website and was reported by Brian Broom. Mississippi's South Delta has been flooded for most of the year, and that has taken its toll on wildlife. Pictures of dead and emaciated deer have been seen untold times on social media, and people are concerned about the condition and size of the herd. In response, the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks is polling hunters who hunt the area, and options in the poll about the coming deer season range from no change in the season to no season at all. No season at all would take a majority vote. Harvest and mortality data, as well as camera surveys, will also be taken into consideration. Reactions to the situations are mixed. J.T. Baum of Pascagoula said he'd prefer the season be closed entirely in the South Delta. Others commented on social media, and preferences range from shortening the season to closing or shortening the season in the worst affected areas. 4-year-old girl among 5 campers attacked by bobcat. This story was reported by ABC News. 5 family members were injured by a bobcat at their campsite in Arizona, according to authorities. The victims, all Arizona residents, were at the Shannon campgrounds in Mount Graham when a bobcat entered their campsite around 7:30 p.m. Sunday, according to a news release from the Graham County Sheriff's Office. The bobcat first attacked a 4-year-old girl, prompting other family members to hit, kick, and grab the animal to get it off her. One of the family members, Tyler Ray, 34, told deputies that at one point he was rolling on the ground with the bobcat, according to the release. Another witness said the bobcat lunged at her after it was separated from the child, according to authorities. The big cat eventually ran off, but the 5 victims, aged 4 to 63, sustained bite marks, scratches, and cuts to the hands, thighs, faces, and heads. After they were checked out by paramedics on the scene, they drove themselves to the hospital. The Arizona Game and Fish Department has been notified of the attack and will continue the investigation. It is unclear whether the bobcat has been located. Uncharted viewers are furious about Gordon Ramsay shooting a goat. This story is from the MSN Lifestyle website and was reported by Greg Morabito. Human! Gordon Ramsay is drawing ire from viewers of his new National Geographic series, Uncharted, over a scene where the chef shoots and kills a goat. The scene in question takes place on a hillside in rural New Zealand, where Ramsay and a local hunter named Dan Russell go out in search of some protein for a feast that the host is preparing with Chef Monique Fiso. Introduced to New Zealand in the 18th century, goats are an invasive species with no natural predators. They've caused untold damage to native vegetation, Ramsay explains via narration. As they approach a crest where goats are grazing, Russell tells Ramsay that they're considered a real pest by the locals and that 15 years ago they were out of control. Once they spot a big goat across the hillside, Ramsay kneels down and makes his shot. The scene includes no guts, no blood, or footage of the animal suffering. Ramsay is also so far away from the goat that he and Russell have to actually hike across the hillside to go and retrieve their kill. and the next time the goat appears, it's already been broken down into a tidy little cuts of meat for the feast like you might find at a boutique butcher shop. As far as animal killing scenes go, this one is completely sanitized, but that didn't stop viewers from taking Twitter to complain about Gordon killing the cute animal with his gun, especially considering that so many hours of food TV are devoted to cooking and eating dead animals, and the fact that Ramsey was accompanied by a local hunter who explained the community's relationship to the wildlife. The anger over this scene seems a bit misplaced. Neither Ramsey nor National Geographic have addressed the backlash yet, and they probably won't, especially since Uncharted, by the way, has already been greenlit for a second season. That concludes this week's edition of the Big Buck Registry's Deer News. Special thanks to Daniel Applebaum and John Geis for leads on stories this week. For links to the stories featured this week, please check our show notes at www.bigbuckregistry.com. If you have any ideas for future topics or have any questions about any of these topics, please email me at jim@bigbuckregistry.com. For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News.
Well, thanks to Jim Keller for the Deer News. Without further ado, here is Blake Garrett. Blake Garrett, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, brother. It's deer season is right around the corner, and you know how that there's like a change as soon as August gets here. The nighttime temperatures start to drop, so that those early mornings start to feel more like early deer season every day. You get that feeling?
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's kind of, to me, that's when, not that deer season ever stops, but that's when I start to get like really excited.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You start to kind of feel it down there. It's absolutely true.
Yep. Where are you at, Blake?
So I'm in central Missouri, just almost, smack dab in the middle of the state. I-70 runs through Missouri right in the middle, and I'm pretty much halfway between St. Louis and Kansas City, just right in the middle.
Okay. All right. Why do you call that home?
It's where I grew up. I grew up in a little bitty town called Marshall, Missouri. That's probably, I say a little bitty, it's a town about 12,000. And, kind of, grew up there, started hunting there, kind of cut my teeth hunting there. And then just the way things go, I met my wife, who was going to law school at NU, at the University of Missouri. Mm-hmm. And we just settled down after she graduated there, and she got a job here, so that's where we are in Columbia. It's really nice for me and what I do because it's so centrally located that I'm really, 8 hours from just about any kind of hunting I want to do, whether I want to go east or west or north or south, or it's just really, really convenient for me.
Gotcha. So you're centrally located, and that definitely helps you get to different parts of Missouri. Do you hunt Missouri most of the time? Is like that the place that you focus on?
No, actually, where I spend, I'll say, the majority of my time as far as all season goes, obviously, because I live here and I've got a bunch of farms that we manage down here, and it's kind of where I get to do. Trail cameras for me is huge. I love running trail cameras. It's probably one of the favorite things I do in the off season, and so it's a time for me to get out there and do that. Supplemental feed program, all that stuff is done in Missouri for the most part. But when the fall comes, I spend a lot of, probably close to 2 months, all of September usually, and then half of October, I'll be gone. I'll be on the road. I'll be out west typically, doing hunts out there, and then I come back home for the rut in Missouri. And then late season comes around, and I'll either, if I filled my out-of-state tags, then I'll stay home and late season hunt. But if I haven't, then I go back on the road and try to get those out-of-state tags filled. But I'd say, for the hunting time of the world, and the hunting time of the year, I'm gone just as much as I'm here. It's almost 50-50
Gotcha.
for the most part.
Gotcha. What are your favorite states to hunt outside of your home state?
Nebraska is probably my top state, hands down. I think Nebraska is kind of a sleeper state.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good whitetails out in Nebraska. And there's mule deer as well. There's antelope. I mean, it's a kind of a neat tag. It's a relatively cheap tag, like $250 over the counter, and it's an either or tag. So you can buy if you buy an archery tag, you can have a whitetail buck or a mule deer buck, either one. So it's kind of a cool system, and they run their seasons a lot. I guess really consistent to what Missouri is for the most part. The only cool thing about what they do is they open September 1st. So where Missouri opens September 15th. So I can go out and spend 2 weeks in Nebraska hunting before I can even, I could ever hunt here in Missouri.
That's a lot of like bonuses for trying to calculate what's a good state. I mean, that everything you just said, for $250 over the counter out of state tag for muley or whitetail, that's very inviting.
Oh, absolutely. And there's giant mule deer. I mean, you're not going to kill what you could kill in Arizona or New Mexico, but you're also spending a fifth of what the tag would cost, and it's over the counter tag.
Right.
So, I mean, you're still going to be able to kill, 170, 180, 190 mule deer out in the sandhills for over the counter. So it's huge, and they have a ton of public ground.
That was my next question. So the tag is cool, but what's the access like? Is it public land?
Yeah, there's a lot of access. I always hunt with outfitters out there. Just over the years of filming and stuff, I've met guys and kind of created relationships,
right.
And we do some promotion with them. But there is a ton of public land out there. I know I've seen a bunch of it. It's kind of spread out. What it is the state buys ground or pays farmers to turn ground into public ground, so essentially walking ground. So it's kind of spread out, but they do really well with, they create a map and it's all online. I think even like on Onyx and some of those apps, you can get on there and actually see where those areas are, and they're kind of spread out throughout the state. And it's just like anywhere else out here. Like the farther west you go, the less pressure you have. It's like Kansas, same way. If you can get more than 3 hours from the border in Kansas, you're going to start seeing a lot less pressure. And the same thing goes for Nebraska. The farther west you go, the better it's going to be as far as dealing with people.
Right. Okay. All right. So, how did you get interested in hunting in the first place? I assume we're gonna go back a ways. Who introduced you to hunting? Where does your passion come from?
That's a question I get a lot, and I don't have an answer for you. I always say, I joke about it, but it's kind of a curse. Ever since I was a kid, little, like 6 years old, I was running around the yard with a BB gun, and I, growing up and going, go 8 and 10 and 12, I kind of graduated to like a 22, and then going out in the timber and walking in the woods, and it's just what I would do when I got out of school. I'd get out of school at 3 o'clock, and I'd go out and I'd walk around till dark and come back. And, I didn't have that one person that's like, hey, this guy really introduced me to hunting or took me hunting for the first time. It was something that I had ingrained in me since I was as well as, as I can remember. I don't know if it was just the adrenaline rush of being close. I have memories, vague memories of when I was 8 years old and I had a bow in my hand and was trying to shoot squirrels with field tips in the woods, and I had a buck come by with a doe. He was rutting, and I didn't know any of this at the time, but he was rutting and pushing her around, and I stood really still and just stood by a tree, and he ran her around me probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 different times and got out of there, and it was like the coolest thing I vaguely remember it, but it was the coolest thing at that time I could ever do, and the deer was huge, and looking back on it now, it was probably, 100-inch 6-pointers, but at that time it was like the coolest thing that happened, and it kind of hooked me into it. My dad always rifle hunted in Missouri, but I say that I maybe don't give him enough credit. He was always he promoted it. He always tried to help me if I asked for help, or it was like, hey, will you take me? He would always take me, him or my grandpa. But for the most part, the drive to do it was something that ever since I can remember, it was just the most important thing to go do and top priority in what I was doing.
Gotcha. So you were kind of like the driving force behind it. You didn't necessarily have somebody saying, hey kid, come with me. I want to show you what it's like outside. You were kind of like, I'm here. Let's go.
Yeah, it was a thing to where like I was, waking up at, my dad jokes about it even to this day, but I was waking up at, daylight, and I'd go in and ask him if he'd go squirrel hunting. He was like, no, I'm going to sleep in. And I would just go. It was just, I don't know. I can't explain it. And it kind of followed me and just grew and grew and grew as I got older. And I was, skipping practice at school in high school to go hunting. And I was, it kind of losing girlfriends over it and not going out, at night because I had to hunt. It was just something that I just, just had to, I call it a curse, but it was just something I just had to do, and it took priority over pretty much everything.
Right. Right. I hear that a lot. Like, some people get stuck in relationships and other activities, sports, whatever. But that the hardcore hunters will abandon all of that on occasion to make sure that they're in the woods. And it's like this driving force. It's a call to the wild somehow. And you can't explain it. It's just this thing that makes you get out of bed in the morning, and it's like, I got to do this. And I don't know. Maybe it goes back to our genetics or our, as apex predators, and it's just like this thing we got to do.
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy, but it's been something that I think, I've been in this industry now for, I got to a point where, and it's funny because, my grandma and dad and all those people still joke about it to this day. It was, when you were a kid, you said you were going to make a living hunting, and we all told you were crazy.
Right.
You can't make any money at that. You got to make your priorities right. You got to go, you got to focus on school. You can't do this, can't do that. And it's, that didn't drive me into it. I just knew at that point, like, it was just like, the best way to describe it is it's just a curse. It's just something that I just have to do, and I don't have an option. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
right.
I can go and work a full-time job and make great money at it, and there's still a piece of me that wants to be there every day. I just can't settle for that. So it's just something that worked out, and I was blessed enough to have it, work out to where I could make a living at it, but also be able to do something that's just almost second nature, and just something that, you never feel like, man, I don't want to hunt today.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I'm saying? It's just,
right.
Just a really cool calling that
So do you think
to embrace as much as you can.
When people told you that you couldn't make a living doing this, was that a motivator, or was that like, it doesn't matter, I'm still going to do this? It's not more of a motivator. It's just, obviously you hear those things when people tell you can't, you kind of want to do it, but did you have a lot of that, and was that a motivator of sorts?
I'm stubborn. I'm going to say that it was probably a little bit of both.
Okay.
But at the time, I guess I understand what they're saying, because nobody was making money at the time. There was nothing. There was Buckmaster's TV, and then you bought DVDs or VHSs if you wanted to watch hunting shows. There was just nobody doing it.
Right.
So, I understand. I don't think it was about, them being like, oh, you're not good enough, and I didn't take it as that way. It was just a matter of, like, nobody had ever done it. And, at that time, it was like, I didn't know how I was going to do it. It wasn't like, hey, I'm going to go film television shows, because nobody was doing it.
Probably.
I was just like, man, I got to figure out a way. Like, this is too much of a draw for me to not try to figure out a way to, make some money at this and doing it. Whether it be guiding, whether it be, there has to be something I can find, and that was kind of the search that just kind of started that way.
Gotcha. So it sounds like there were just people that cared about you, that didn't really looked at the odds and said, hey, the odds are against you. You might want to reconsider this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Gotcha. What, how long have you been at this now?
God, I'm going to say that I've been filming for television for, this will be the 12th year. Filming and just trying to really get stuff together for hunts. I mean, I did that for another, I would say, since I was probably 15, so 17 years. 17
years, all right. So
18 years, yeah.
Gotcha. So, this is that's a long time. That's a career. That's, that's when people start to change jobs kind of thing. Sometimes, right. We'll finish this one up. But I don't feel like you're going anywhere anytime soon. Like, I feel like you're in this thing.
No, I don't have an option. For me, it's just, I don't, it's something that I'm going to do as long as I'm physically able to do. And we try to grow and change as, kind of the industry's come out. I've only done it full-time now for the last 3 years, 2.5, and part-time, before that for, I'd say, I think I've been in TV since 2010, so the last 9 years. Just kind of part-time doing it, and just kind of built it up. When I started it, when I was like, okay, we're going to go after this filming industry and try to do it that way, I was like, I just want to get a deal on some of my product. That's what I want to do. I love what I'm doing, but I just want to get a deal on my stuff. I don't want to pay full price for it.
Right.
And then we started kind of getting that to roll, and I was like, okay, how can I make it cheaper for myself? Because this is what I got to do. And just kind of kept going. And it was like, okay, well, how can we make it pay for itself?
Yep.
And it started doing that, and it was like, how do you get to make money? Just take it in steps, and try to grow and grow slow, and you'll be around forever. If you try to grow too fast, you'll burn out quick. And learned a ton over the years. And I tell you what, it's become kind of a thing to where, nowadays you see guys doing it, you see guys get famous, you see guys, fail, you see all of it. And it's something for me that's, I guess, kind of nice, to be able to fall back on that passion of it and the drive to have that to where I can really just stay centered. And I'm not in this thing to be famous. I'm not in this, never been in this industry to be famous, never been in this industry to try to say I know everything about it. Just get in this industry to be able to do what I love and to hopefully, help educate people and kind of my mistakes, as you can imagine when you start that young and no one really is there to guide you, you make a bazillion mistakes. And I've made a bazillion mistakes and still do to this day. I mean, that's just part of hunting, but you try to take it all and put it together and, build a brand around just quality content with good information and not build a brand around who I am as a person or, you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not in it, I don't know if you check out like my Instagram page.
Yeah.
There's very few pictures of my face or me, what I would say, showboating what I do on personal level of things. It's just, I don't feel like that's what the followers really want. And my dream of kind of my business and my brand is a matter of quality content, good deer, but overall there's good education and good information for people to see,
I have to say, I did notice that about your page. Like, it's not a lot of you. It's a lot of like deer and pictures that you would hope to see. And I get it. And I think we're the same way. Like, we don't love to really showboat ourselves, but if we have a successful something or if somebody else does, we'd love to share that. And but the selfies and the self promotion, it's not really our style. And
no, it's just
not really your style either, from what I can tell.
No, that's not what I'm here for. I mean, I for me, it's just a matter of promoting, what goes on out there and really try to help it grow. And maybe someday get somebody into it that you didn't really know, or if somebody's struggling. I would love to have someone be able to provide information like I'm trying to provide when I was 15 years old.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or 12 years old. That's the way I look at it.
Right. Your Instagram page reads The Blake Garrett.
Right.
Tell me about that.
So, it kind of just, I give a lot of the credit, I guess, for the growth of it to when I was really heavy with Full Draw Ventures on Sportsman Channel at that time, and building marketing stuff for it, and then just kind of built some good partners with Covert Trail Cameras, started kind of doing stuff for them. So a lot of the following, I think, kind of, I saw a big rise in it from starting to kind of work with Covert sharing my stuff, and then, we had a couple pictures and videos, trail cam pictures and stuff go kind of viral and, get 200,000 views on Instagram and stuff like that, to where, it just kind of helped build it. But then over the time I've had it kind of started growing and growing and growing and growing. And it was just my personal page at the time. So I changed it over to I guess now they have it as a personality page, and then they have a business page option. I had business page before and just kind of started building it up. And, as it started kind of growing in followers, I was like, well, I want to pull out more of my personal stuff and kind of start running it as more of a, as what the brand should be. And so kind of made that transition probably 3 or 4 years ago. And when, we developed an app called Unfiltered Outdoors 3 years ago. And when we did that, we really wanted to push into that mobile network. So started kind of building a following and just, from then on, try to do all the social media stuff to help grow organically as you can, posting daily and trying to post quality content and, it's somewhat easy to run that page just because it's what I do, all the time. So it's I say it's not a personal page, but it pretty much is because that's, what I'm doing daily.
Right.
It's just, I just don't post a selfie of me at Starbucks or things like that. But
yeah,
it's been fun.
That makes sense. And I think Cuz Strickland probably said this best, and just listening to your story, you've been this 17 years, it's been a while, and there's always this perception that you got lucky if you've been at this for a while, and the way he states it is, you're the 20-year overnight success. Right? So you've been grinding at this profession for quite a while, and you start slow, you don't expect much, and then some of it catches hold, and you build on it, and you build on it, and you build on it, and 20 years later, you finally making some money at this thing, and then everybody's like, "Wow, where did he come from?"
Exactly. Yeah.
So I see that in you.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think I think a lot of that contributes back to not wanting. I'm anti-showboat, and I'm going to say this. And there's guys that whatever, do your thing. I'm not knocking anybody for what they do or how they build a brand, but for me, it's just I'm not going to do anything that I'm not behind 100%, in my heart. And I think that the brand that I'm trying to kind of go with is just true me. I don't want it about kind of what Blake Garrett is as much as, like, say, the quality content, quality products, stuff like that. Just build it there, and if I'm able to make a living at it and not be famous because I'm not lifting weights or running or doing things about me, then I'm all right with that. That's the brand I want to do. Like I said, it kind of all goes back to that passion of I'm living, like, I'm as famous as I ever want to be right now because I'm able to do what I love and make money.
Right.
I just that's where it is, and I think, like you're talking about, the water just gets so muddy with guys in the industry because it's just there's smoke and mirrors. There's guys who, I don't know a lot of guys who grind like I have. I'm hunting 7 states plus Missouri. I'll literally be gone. I was home 4 nights last year from September 1st to Thanksgiving. 4 nights total that I saw my family, saw my licensed child. It's just a grind, man. You just run and go and go and go and go. But a lot of times. There are a lot of guys out there, I guess, that do that. There are a lot of guys that do it full time. A lot of guys that are fresh to this industry, they don't realize that they think, hey, if you're on TV, you're just making buku bucks. And 90% of the people in this industry have full-time jobs outside this industry.
Yep.
That's what people don't realize, So,
yep.
There's a lot of piece to it.
Being away that long, how does it take it's like a job of anything, and it's probably relative to athletes that play professional sports where they're gone from their families for an extended period of time. Not quite that long, but that's a long time to be away from the family. Do you ever find that takes its toll and weighs on the family life?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. My wife is an absolute trooper. She deals with it well, but she's very understanding in the fact that she knows that what my getaway is, and she knows that there's really only 3 months out a year that I can capture content and, get the things and get the opportunities I have ahead of me. So she understands that, you go through 3 or 4 months of being gone and talking to me on FaceTime or whatever every night. But, that the benefits are I'm home in the summer. I'm home all the time in the summer, So, and she, this time of the year, it's pretty much, if she says, hey, we're going to Menards to go shopping, then guess what? We're going to Menards to go shopping. And she has me for the summer, So it's a trade-off. But, I was funny. I talked to a guy the other day about it, and he was like, man, I don't know how your wife deals with that. Well, she understands it. And just like you said, it's a job, and that's what it is. And the difference in what I do and what, a lot of other guys do that aren't in the industry is a lot of guys hunt for themselves and hunt for fun. They hunt when they're not working. And if they don't kill anything, it's all right. But for me, I can go in and put in a full day's work for a year and bust my butt and do everything right I can do, and that deer still doesn't show up, and I don't get paid, essentially. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a really a thing about opportunity and being and just spending as much time as you can in the woods for me. Because every time you're not in the woods in the fall, you have this little voice in the back of your head saying you may be missing an opportunity because you decided to take the day off, kind of thing.
Right. When did Full Draw Adventures come into your life?
So I'll kick back. I started in the industry with a show called Campfire Stories.
Okay.
And the way I started with them was like I was talking about, we had been filming, and I just burned this is what I figured when it was, I burned a DVD of our hunts, and I took it to the Iowa Deer Classic and met Indy Wipers who owned Campfire Stories at that time. They were going to the Pursuit Channel that year. And I gave him my hunts, said, hey, check these out. Would like to be a part of your show, whatever. He called me back and was like, hey, man, love it. We're going to bring you on just to be a pro staff guy. We'll get you some product and stuff like that. And started hunting. So I started with them. And really from there, it just kind of snowballed. I mean, hunted with them for like 3 years, I think 3 or 4. And started meeting sponsors up with them and just kind of rubbing elbows with guys. And then we decided that we wanted to go to the Sportsman's Channel. Mm-hmm. Well, Campfire was staying on Pursuit. So I kind of did the same thing where I took some hunts, put them together, got a hold of Bill at Full Draw and said, hey, this is, kind of what we've done in the past. Looking to do some more. So went on there as just a pro staff and started pro staffing with him for a year or two. Kind of the same thing, met some sponsors with them, and just kind of got in love with them. And then I, at that point in my career, it kind of started where I could bring some sponsors to the table. Right? I had some guys I knew that, saw some benefit in what kind of return they were getting out of me and stuff like that. So started bringing sponsors to Full Draw and really started working marketing for them as well. Stayed with them all the way through until we developed the app. I'm still technically with Full Draw Adventures. I still, give them some video content a year, pretty much anything they want as far as bow kills go. Still helping a little bit with sponsors, but I got to be careful with it because we have sponsors for the app as well, and I just don't want to muddy that water. So
right.
Kind of a, kind of a working relationship with us. But we've partnered with Full Draw now to be on the app as well. So we've kind of married those two together where I think we can keep that relationship going in business sense for years to come. I don't think it'll be a single problem.
Okay, so you kind of have your own separate thing going, but you have a relationship with Full Draw.
Yeah, I don't do like full scale marketing for them anymore.
Yep.
I used to, but yeah, I do kind of. We have Unfiltered Outdoor Pages, and that's myself, and then John Dittmer is my business partner. He came from Jury's, did Dream Season, then did Whitetail Fix, and then left them whenever we came together and divided this app. So. Yeah, we're kind of a hat. I mean, I'm wearing many hats,
Gotcha.
We're the Full Draw hat, we're the Unfiltered hat.
Gotcha. Let's take a little break, and when we come back, we'll pick up where we left off with Blake Garrett.
Rackology Deer Supplement and Attractant, developed through years of intense scientific research, comes a product that puts it all in one bag. Superior attractant, scientifically formulated vitamins and minerals, and all at a much better price. To get yours today, please check out rackology.org for a list of dealers. Rackology, how can you afford not to use it? Everything deer need, all in one bag.
And now back to our conversation with Blake Garrett. Gotcha. So, 17 years, you've been hunting since you were a kid with a BB gun. You had to pick up some strategies and techniques over the years that we could maybe help some other people out to make their hunting a little more successful.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me about some of the things that pop into your head that you think make you a better hunter.
I think I'm kind of cursed again, I'm going to say, with the OCD. So I pay attention to everything that I see going on in the woods. I pay attention to trail camera pictures. I pay attention to what I do in the woods, and all those things are analyzed at a really high level. And I try to be, I try to learn just as much as I think I know going into it and into every year. Biggest thing I guess I can say that we've picked up over the years is just kind of a deer movement pattern thing called the filter face. Is the thing that I'm working on getting an article out on right now. I posted a little bit about it on my Instagram page, but really it's a matter of from many trail cameras, we figured out that bucks have been showing up and changing their areas from about July 25th to August 2nd. Every year in that same time frame. We have some bucks that showed up on a farm. I'll say one specific buck that showed up on the same mineral lake on the same farm within a day of each other 3 years in a row. And he disappears again, and I don't pick him up until October. But he does it. He always shows up the last week. He showed up the 30th, the 31st, and the 1st, the last 3 years. That's of July and into August. And then I only get, one set of pictures of him at that mineral lake, and then he's gone again, and he won't show back up until October.
Interesting.
And it's a really weird phase, but we've documented now 24 bucks total in the last 3 years on 6 different pieces of property that have what we call field tripped the last week of July, first week of August onto the property. They show up for a day, maybe 2, and then they're gone again, and we don't pick them back up until the rut. And the bucks that we've had on those properties that we follow all summer and they leave that week, those bucks leave that farm as soon as they go harvesting. So I never get another picture of them until late season when they've either shed or about to shed their antler. So we kind of picked that up. So I always tell guys, like, the biggest thing the most important week to have your trail cameras out is always the last week of July, first week of August. Because you're going to pick up some new deer that you're never going to see, but you're going to pick up the deer you're going to hunt during the rut.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of a new thing that really there's no information out on it. Like, no one's ever come up with it. No one's ever really noticed it. No one's ever seen anything with it. Worked with a couple of biologists about it. Biggest thing for them is, what I'm getting back from them is that week is the right amount of daylight hours where the bucks get their first shot of testosterone for the year.
Okay.
So that first shot of testosterone pushes them out into their rut ranges. But they immediately come right back into their summer range, continue there, and when they get their next shot of testosterone, which is when they shed their velvet, that's when they push out to their rut range. And then from then on, the testosterone's rising, all fall. So they stay in that rut range from that period on.
That's interesting. So they're like getting, based off of biology and the amount of daylight hours. So you're saying it's almost like going to the doctor, getting a shot of testosterone, get you up and going for a few days.
Yeah, I mean, they feel almost like, how we can, just like you talked about with the cold nights and, this time of the year, you start to kind of feel it.
Mm-hmm.
I think those bucks just start to kind of feel it. I mean, they're like, okay,
right.
Summer's out, I got the right thing. But the biggest thing for me, I guess that this is just a piece of the iceberg, but the biggest thing for me that I want to work on in the next 5 years is if that's true, and if there's, working with a radio collar. Missouri's doing a really big radio collar survey right now, and they should drop the data on it in 2 years. It's a 5-year study, and they're in year 3 now. But if I can see those spikes there, what I'm onto, or I guess what I'm looking for is if as daylight hours are moving those bucks within a day each year of each other, then that tells you a lot about doe estrus cycle. If this one doe, say you have a doe on your farm and she comes in the heat October 31st every year, right? Because of the daylight hours. If there's correlation there, then you can almost tell, when you need to be hunting your farms as far as those early does coming in the cycle.
Right.
To where you're going to have heightened activity. So we're just trying to find correlations with daylight hours and deer movement. It's almost like turkeys nesting. There's 1,000 different theories out there of why turkeys nest when they nest. The ground temperature's got to be warm enough, whatever the case may be. And come to find out, it's a biological thing of daylight hours. I have a guy who has a turkey farm for Tyson, and his lights messed up, and his lights stayed on too long, and he had all of his turkeys started laying eggs in January.
Right.
Because they had so much daylight hours. So, I think there's correlation there, and that's something that, for the guys who are really trying to analyze the deer and figure out deer movement and trying to figure out when to take that vacation each year. I mean, there's things there that you can look at that, you can say, hey, peak rut in Missouri is November 9th. Yeah, it is. But if you have an older doe structure on your farm, those old does breed first, and they usually come in sometime around the 1st to the 4th.
Gotcha.
That's a big correlation there. But I'm going to say my biggest, I guess I got those trim there, but my biggest, I think the thing that's led to my success is lack of pressure that I bring on deer. We really start from the outside and work in on them. Just trying to find a deer, figure out where he is, and really hunt edges for the most part. And just hunt the edges until you absolutely, you're not being successful with it, and then you push back in him and on 40 yards. And there, that doesn't work.
When you say edges, describe edges a little bit more.
So for us in Missouri, we have quite a bit of open ground. Not a lot, but there's to see a 200-acre patch of timber is rare.
Right.
So I'm going to say you're hunting 50-acre, 20-acre, 10-acre little patches of timber. This time of year, it's not too big of a deal because our deer are living in the corn for the most part, the standing corn. But they will move once that corn gets harvested, and they'll move into the timber. So keeping those little sanctuaries and those areas that you don't pressure will hold your deer on your farm, and they become more important. So when we talk about, I'm really big on a supplemental feeding plan. That's something that we've gotten really deep into the last 2 years, and it's something that we're seeing just ridiculous results out of. So we try to set up that feeding plan on the edges. We try to set up cameras on the edges of that timber, and we really hunt on the edge of that timber early until the rut. And then when the rut happens, if we haven't capitalized by hunting our edges, we'll push into the timber and hunt the funnels and things like that in November. But
Gotcha.
Found a lot of success from hunting on those edges like that. For you're looking for scrapes, you're hunting field edges, things like that.
Okay. So the edges of the field where the timber meets the egg or whatever it is.
Correct.
Transitional zones. Okay.
Yep.
All right. And you mentioned that, and I know you have a relationship with Covert. We also have a relationship with Covert, but I do really like Covert. Like I went after the camera company because I thought there was a good relationship that could be formed there, and I really liked their product.
Right.
And one of the things that I think is one of the most useful tools, and I don't know if you're using it now, but are some of the cell cam stuff.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Are you using some of the cell cam technology?
Yeah. I've got a couple of E1s now, and then I've got 2 or 3 of the older ones, Black Ops, still running too.
Okay.
And I like them. Yeah.
Do you find that they're a bigger advantage to stay out of the woods more, or in your strategy it doesn't really matter?
I think. I think so. I mean, they're nice for me because they kind of scratch an itch of me wanting to check my trail cameras, so I can let them sit a little bit longer.
Right.
But I utilize them for a lot of things. I utilize them not only for security on the farms as well, but I'll utilize them to check my feed levels to see when feeders get empty, when feed gets is gone. And usually I have to run them on edges where I'm at in Missouri just because cell phone signal down in the ditches and down in the timber isn't great anyway. But I could push it into if I wanted to, but I think kind of with my strategy, they set out, a lot of times I have, like on a feed site, for instance, I'll have 2 cameras running where I'll have a basic covert camera, and then I'll have a cell camera there. And this is kind of a nice way for me to keep tabs on what's using it. And like I said, the feed levels of, I don't want to go in there. I don't want to have to drive in there every week and check and see how much corn I got on the ground and how much big time I got on the ground to see if it needs to be refilled or not or whatever. It's just a way to say, okay, hey, they're out of feed. You need to go feed today, kind of thing.
Right.
But there's a ton of different ways. I mean, Josh, you're absolutely right. You can get it into an area, in the rut and tell the deer's in there on a feed. If you have the option to get in there and hunt him, then get in there and hunt him, kind of thing.
Right. Gotcha. What else have you picked up over the years as far as like, so you've got a few strategies that you use, but getting in and out of the sites, you've got certain scouting techniques, you've got certain scent cover techniques, making yourself neutral, making yourself smell like something, making the time of day you go in. Do you have any, are there any rules that you follow?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And we try to make ourselves as predictable as possible to the deer all year long. I mean, when we feed, I feed out of my truck. I check all my cameras are within 30 yards of where I can drive to. So we'll drive into a farm and drive right to the camera, drive right to the feed sites, dump everything, be loud. I mean, just do what we do. We always feed in the middle of the day, never go early, never before 9 o'clock, and never after 5 this time of the year. And really just try to let the deer kind of pattern us. And we found out that over the years, deer, it's not necessarily pressure as far as you being on your farm. as much as it's like unexpected pressure for them. So, we want to be able to be predictable, and we want them to be able to watch us drive in and feed and drive right back out and not stand up and not, run off the farm and things like that. So we try to have kind of a positive influence anytime we have interaction in the timber. So, I'll even take like a pound of mineral, and every time I go to a mineral site to pull a camera, I'll put a little bit of mineral down. Or, we always dump a little bit of feed when we pull a camera, or things like that. Just positive interactions for the most part through the year. And I think if you do that and you're able to capitalize whenever you do push the pressure, right? Like if I move a stand back 40 yards and then hunt it that day and have that buck come through and I'm killing it, none of the herd knows that there's pressure there. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
We really try to minimize it like that. We also don't do does on the farm. It's very rare if we do shoot a doe, and if we do, we're going to shoot a doe that's alone. A lot of guys, I think, make the problem of shooting does, and they'll shoot a doe with 4 other does in the field with her. And all you did is educate those does that, hunters are bad. Humans are bad, the scent's bad, and whatever blind or stand or whatever you shot them out of is a bad thing for them, and there's danger there. So we're really, really selective about where we take those and what does we take as far as, we want singles and try not to educate the deer herd for the most part on pressure for that thing.
Gotcha. So you're very conscientious about educating other deer by making a solo interaction, or if you're going to have interaction in their area, and taking that negative pressure-oriented scenario and doing something that turns it into a positive interaction, like a little bit of feed, a little bit of mineral, something that makes them think that and feel that, okay, well, this new stand's here, but there's food there, so that must be a good thing. So,
yeah, I think it's a matter of, and like I said, I go back to my OCD thing of, it's a matter of, I think they, if they smell me at the feed site all year long, and then I go in and I hang a tree stand and I dump 2 pounds of big pine on the ground below it, that they're going to think I'll just have another feed site there, and they're not going to have any more questioning of why I was in there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's more of a, I look at it as like, I look at cattle, and when I was in high school, I was a farm hand. We had cows that literally you could pull up, and if you were in a white truck and you pulled to the top of the hill and honked the horn, they would all come to you. But if you pulled up and you were in a black truck and you honked the horn, none of them would come.
Right.
You don't realize, it's just little things that they see that they just automatically associate with, wait a second, that's a positive thing, this is going on. And that's what we try to do with them, is just try to be as positive interaction as we can. I hate shed season. I absolutely hate it, because I have to walk my farm to, in areas that I don't walk in all year long. And we blow all the deer out. But what we've found is a lot of times I'll just go, 50 yards around us and go right back in. But it's a thing about, just minimizing pressure on the farm and trying to be as predictable as we can for us going in there. Because unfortunately, and especially in my business, I have to pull cameras. I have to run a bunch of cameras. I have to feed a bunch of feed. All those things are things I have to go into, which have me going in and out of the farm more than what normal people could. A lot of guys won't even touch their farm. I know a lot of the old school guys that, hunt giant deer won't even touch the farm until November. Literally won't go into it at all. And that's great. But in the industry I'm in, I got to get trail camera pictures. And I just want to follow bucks. I want to know bucks. I want to, be able to follow the herd and see what's going on with it. So kind of found a way to turn our pressure of going into that farm into a positive interaction with the deer. And we found out that it makes, leaps and bounds. I've had deer, like, we hung a stand. We quit feeding at one spot specifically, and went in probably a month later, and I went in to hang a stand and went in kind of by the feeder, and I parked my truck right by where the feeder was, and went and found a tree and went up the tree, and I was up the tree, got the sticks up there. I was getting ready to pull the first stand up, and here comes 6 deer running across the field to the feeder. And they come right underneath me, go right where the feeder was, smell my truck, walk around it a bunch, and then they just push off into the timber. Never boogered one time. But it was just a matter of they saw me kept driving, and they knew that that truck comes in here and goes there. There's food there, and they hadn't had food for a month. So
Gotcha.
they thought, it's on, They come running all the way in to get it, 10 minutes after I got there, and there was no feeder. But that's the kind of thing, you kind of want to rewire their brain into seeing positive things with you. And, guys a lot of times guys, will take a four-wheeler into their farm when they don't usually use a four-wheeler, or they'll take a truck and, heaven forbid, they shoot from the truck or shoot from the four-wheeler, or even jump off the four-wheeler and shoot. Well, when that deer hears a four-wheeler from now on, the deer understands that there's danger involved in it. You know what I mean? That's just, there's science and biology to prove that animals like that thing. They learn from negative experiences. So, it kind of all came back from when we started rattling and calling bucks in. We'd rattle a buck one time, but if he got around and got a wind, you'd never rattle that buck in the rest of the year. Yeah. So it shows retention in their brain for danger.
Right. Yeah. It's simple math really to them, and it's conditioning, and it's simple conditioning, but you got to know that it is occurring, because all they know is survival. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And if you trigger one of those brain cells to store a negative interaction that could potentially influence their survival or lack of survival, then you know that condition is off the plate. Like, you can't do that again.
Right. You won't get away with it.
Yep. Very interesting that you're paying that much attention to conditioning of the interactions, specifically if you're aware of certain deer in the area, and that you're teaching them. It's not like they're sitting down and philosophizing, stuff, but they certainly know a yes or a no, or a danger or no danger kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about it. Someone's been trying to kill them since the day they were born.
Right.
Always.
Right.
So they have to learn quick, and the ones that learn quick are the hardest ones to kill.
Right.
And those are the ones you're going after. So there's a whole thing with it, and that's why I always, revert back to being OCD about it. But we really, really pay attention to that stuff, and really try to, stay disciplined on that stuff, because you will see great benefits out of it if you can do it.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Let's, if you could, entertain us with a memorable deer hunt that you've been on, something that kind of makes a lot of sense and incorporates a lot of the things that you use in the woods. Maybe highlights some of your strategies.
I'm going to say maybe 4 years ago, I had picked up this little bitty 30-acre piece of ground, and it wasn't much. It probably had 5 acres of timber on it, and that was it. And the timber was within 200 yards of the road. So, looking at the property, you wouldn't think much of it. But I knew that the surrounding property and kind of what it connected was good, and I thought, I'd get it and see. I mean, maybe in the rut, we'll have some deer swinging through it. Started running cameras on it, and ran cameras all summer. Never even picked up a horned buck. Nothing. Just a bunch of does and yearlings. And about September 15th, September 20th rolled around, and I went in and pulled the card, and all of a sudden I had like 5 different bucks on it, 2 shooters, and a bunch of younger 3-year-olds on it. And the only thing that changed is the crops had come out to the west of it. So they had harvested the standing corn. So those bucks, like we talked about, those bucks live in the standing corn in summer here. They do at least. As soon as that corn's gone, they have to suck in this timber. So they moved in this timber. And I'd only literally looked at it on Google Earth, and the bigger chunk of the timber kind of bottlenecked. And the bigger chunk of the timber I'd never even walked in. Still to this day, I've never walked in it. I walked in maybe, I'd say 50 yards from the edge, and found a tree that's right in the middle of the bottleneck, put a stand there, and left it. Just thought, we'll run a camera and see what happens. Well, we had a buck show up, really big 8-pointer, had 2 giant eye guards, and he had showed up on the camera 5 days in a row in the daylight.
Okay.
We're like, okay, yeah, this is game on. Well, he was living in the larger part of the bottleneck on the third at the time. So I had to have a north wind to hunt it. You're talking late September at this point, which north winds aren't conducive at that time of the year. I had like 4 days. I had to wait until I got a cold front.
Wow.
And
okay.
Yeah, so I have to sit out of it for 4 days. So I left it. I got out of the farm, waited, had a cold front that went from 80 to 62. It went down to 60, at 60 or 59 degrees as a high that next day. So when that cold front came through. So the cold front came through. When it did, it pushed rain that morning. So I waited till the evening, went in, got in the tree, had a 3-year-old deer come by us. That was a great deer, like a mid-30s buck, and probably 11 or 12 does came by. And we're sitting there, and then all of a sudden this deer shows up right behind us, comes right underneath us, and I end up shooting him like 5 yards from the tree. And got him killed. He runs 150 yards, and we're getting wrapped up and all that. And it was really the first time that I'd ever kind of utilized everything as far as minimized pressure with trail camera, viewing him on trail camera and kind of figuring him out on trail camera for when he was there, and then also adapting to waiting for the cold front to get in there and hunt him. It just kind of all came together for the first hunt of the year in Missouri, it was like October 6th, I think, or something. Season had been open almost a month, but we hadn't had a cold front, and we just kind of sat back and wait for it and minimize pressure on 30 acres to kill. He's a 152-inch 8-pointer. Just a super, super cool thing that everything worked out, in the end. And it was kind of nice to see it all kind of utilize, 3 or 4 different pieces together to get that deer killed. Right.
That's very cool. Very cool. Let me run 10 rapid fire questions by you if I could.
Okay.
All right. What's your number one hunting tip of all time?
Number one hunting tip of all time is, I'm going to say, I don't want to say minimize pressure because it's just too broad.
Right.
I'm going to say shoot what you're happy with, not what you think someone else is happy with.
That's a good one.
Yep. Yeah.
I like that one. We have these things, or some of us have these things, that if we are in a tree stand, we realize we forgot it in the truck or at home, it drives us insane. What's that one thing for you?
My binos.
Binos, definitely. What's your biggest pet peeve in life?
Not having confidence in the person that you are.
I like that one. I like that one a lot. Confidence, when I find somebody that's not confident in who they are, it makes me crazy. Like, I don't know. I can't.
Yeah, and the sad thing is a lot of them have a lot to offer.
Absolutely.
If there's somebody like that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
That's the, I would say disappointing. That's the disappointing part to me.
Yep. I know what you're saying. How old are you today?
I'm 35.
You're 35. What would you tell the 17-year-old Blake Garrett, knowing what you know about life?
Take your time.
Nice.
Don't rush it.
Yep, I like it. All right. You're at a hotel and at a hunting convention somewhere in the country, and you meet a stranger in the lobby. They ask you what you do for a living. What would you tell them?
I create marketing content for the outdoor industry.
Nice. What did you have for breakfast this morning?
I ate a waffle.
A waffle. All right.
Yeah.
You can have your own billboard on the side of a highway. It's a blank canvas, so you can put anything you want on it. What would you put on it?
I would probably put an ad for Unfiltered Outdoors, the app, to download.
Smart businessman. I like it. If I say the word successful to you, who's the first person that pops into your head and why?
Successful. Probably my grandpa.
Okay.
And he was successful on a lot of different levels, but just the family core aspect of, he made a lasting legend, and he made impressions on people that they live with today. And I feel like that's success.
Gotcha. Very cool. What's a typical day in your life look like?
This time of year, it's a lot of emails and phone calls. And then if I can skirt away, it's shoot the bow and trail camera.
Gotcha. All right. And then what's a typical deer hunting day in your life look like? Start to finish.
It's just long and stressful for me.
All right.
Overanalyzing everything, probably.
Does it start early and end late?
Yeah, yeah. We'll hunt. We grind, so we'll hunt till early season. We usually don't hunt a lot of mornings, but we'll still go out at 3 and hunt till dark, and it's try to get out there well before anything's moving and out there after everything's kind of gone by.
Gotcha. Very cool. All right. Those are the 10 rapid fire questions. You did
nice.
well. You did well. Yep. Sometimes we create more questions than answers here on the show when we go through a podcast. Where are some good places to find you?
So yeah, you can shoot an email, just BlakeUnfilteredOutdoors@gmail.com, or on my Instagram page at the Blake Garrett on Instagram.
Very cool, man. Blake, I got to say, this has been an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show. I learned a bunch about the things you use to be successful in the woods, and hopefully we'll find that there are people that are listening will pick up on a few of those things and add them to their bag of tricks and make them more successful this year.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And anytime, let me know if you want to jump on another one, or if anybody ever has any questions, feel free to shoot them. I have a ton of questions on Instagram I get daily, and I try to get to all of them. It may be late at night, but try to help out where I can.
Well, I do appreciate Blake coming on the show and kind of expressing to us how he goes about his day when it comes to deer hunting. He certainly has focused on those positive deer reinforcement events as opposed to the negative, endlessly avoiding those negative deer interactions. And I think it's very interesting that he is able to take more of a global look with his game cameras and really take a hard look at what's happening with deer year over year as opposed to what's happening right now. And I think that might be one of those key indicators that we haven't really thought about yet. And we've heard this on the show before, where some deer seem to show up at a certain point, but I haven't heard that the activity that occurs in July and August is necessarily the activity that's going to show up early season or just when the antlers are starting to shed. But I'm very interested to find out where these theories go with some radio collar technology. Dusty, where can we find you when you're not hanging out here in the studios with me?
Shoot me an email, dusty@bigbuckregistry.com. You can look me up on Instagram and Twitter @ChasingAntler, Facebook.com/Chubby Tines Outdoors. Jay, where can the people reach out to you? Or you're not on the mic.
Likewise, you can shoot me an email, jay@bigbuckregistry.com, and you can visit us on Facebook, facebook.com/bigbuckregistry. We're also on Twitter, which is twitter.com/bigbuckregistry. We're also on Instagram, instagram.com/bigbuckregistry, and YouTube, which is youtube.com/bigbuckregistry. On YouTube, you can listen to all of our podcasts in their entirety. As far as videos are concerned, it's a boring video, but the audio content is there, so you can actually listen to our podcast. You can also listen to all of our live shows that we've done on Thursday nights when we do them, and we've gone back and re-interviewed a lot of our previous guests we had on the show just to put a face to a voice, let's put it that way. You can always listen to our show on other places as well, not just YouTube. We're found on Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, and as an Amazon Alexa skill. Go to Alexa and say, Alexa, enable Big Buck Registry. And if you would like to submit a buck to our page for consideration and be featured on our page in front of 250,000 diehard deer hunting fans, all you have to do is go to bigbuckregistry.com/mybuck, and all of the instructions will be right there. I think that's pretty much everywhere we're at. I think that's a wrap, Dusty.
That's a whole lot of big buck, Jay.
Sure is. I'm Jay Scott.
I'm Dusty Phillips.
And this is the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. We'll see you next week.